Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to actually come and attend our webinar. Really talking around looking at how do you build your dream team for local search, working with agencies, working direct with brand. How does that fit in between the two? Really to make a comprehensive, nice piece of the puzzle for paid to local to organic SEO, because as we know today, everything really mixes into that specific time. So I'm Tyler Ludwig, Director of Enterprise Solutions here at Rio SEO. Been here for about 8+ years. Started back in the day at an agency called Cavario, which was later acquired by Dentsu Aegis, and then rolled over to really work around the product team, marketing team, as well as sales for really expanding to the enterprise space for local search marketing, local search technology, to really build out that profile. If this is your first time joining one of the webinars, we really want to thank you. We've obviously have a great cast today with Joseph as well as Rich on their sides, and really want to make sure that we're focusing on your needs as well as any questions that come in. So a few housekeeping items just to make sure that we have that for everybody dialing in. This will be a live panel. We'll go through Q&A throughout. We obviously have some questions and topics that we want to cover, but really make sure that if you want to ask any questions, go to the questions dialog box on your screen to really bring those into the conversation if you have anything for Joseph or Rich or myself as we go through there. We're looking to wrap this up around the 30-minute mark. It might go to 45 minutes, so thank you for taking that time out of your day. But then we will always have a recording of this session so that you guys can view it after if you weren't able to attend. So just to kick it off, just want to introduce our two guest speakers, Rich and Joseph. Joseph, let's kick it off with you. Just tell us a little bit about your background, who you guys work with, especially in the local search space, SEO, and so forth.
Sure, absolutely. Joseph Burzel. I am the group director of SEO at Horizon Media. I actually just moved over here, formerly with Mullen Lowe Group. I have about 9+ years of experience in the SEO space. Content marketing, social media, all those different aspects. I've worked with some really large brands like Kaiser Permanente, Harley Davidson, Wyndham Hotels, and currently I'm working with a couple of clients in the transportation space and a couple of clients in the automotive space as far as local SEO goes. But super excited to be here. Been doing this for a long time. Seen the space change a lot, so it's going to be a fun conversation.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. Rich.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining the webinar today. My name is Rich Mastriani. I'm the Vice President of Client Solutions with Performix. Performix is the performance marketing arm of Publicis Group, the group of agencies. I've been on the agency side for the past year, but prior to that, spent most of my SEO experience, which is I think approaching 13, 14 years now, aging myself, within the travel segment as well as the insurance segment, as well within those, mostly those two verticals. So happy to be on.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And then just so everybody knows, once again, just to mention that again is, why we're here is, 2020, there's been a lot of movement within not only algorithm changes, within local search and organic SEO. We know that relevance is becoming, a huge factor of the business. It's just not name, address, phone number anymore. It's, how can you actually beat out the competition, especially in saturated markets, right? Which definitely lends it to, having a team, having an agency partner alongside of that, because technology can only get you so long or so far within the process. And I think there's a lot of manual effort and coordination that goes within there, and it's choosing the right partner, right? It's, is it set and forget it, or is it actually building out a full-blown marketing capability that, delivers back on ROI? So what we want to do is really focus around, here at Rio SEO, we focus on multi-location brands, 50 or more locations. So we're really looking at the larger picture, which might be international, it might be just national. Every country, every region is different. So, some of the topics that we want to cover today is, what does it look like from a synchronicity perspective between the agency as well as the tech stacks? Is it the paid search programs? Is it the agency? Is it social? What does it look like for franchisees, right? So, that is a very complex situation where a lot of times you have to get buy-in. You have to have, is it a corporate budget? Is a marketing program that they do? But then also looking at location data and content, and then what is next for 2020 as we're going through the retail season as well as holiday season, which is complex for everybody. So just to dive in, really to think about experience-wise, you guys gave a really great background on what you do and where you've been through different verticals. As far as it works for what you guys do is, who do you typically work with? Is it, the CMOs? Is it looking at a e-com? Is it looking at a, omni-channel provider within a brand itself? What does that look like for you guys?
I guess I'll jump in there. I mean, we're as kind of a full service agency, we touch a lot of different parts of the business. So a lot of times we're talking to C-suite, executives, things like that. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you're only interacting with the marketing arm of a large organization. It is rather difficult to get on the schedule of a CMO at some of these enterprise level clients, but we work across disciplines. I mean, honestly, if I'm not interacting with anyone that has some sort of paid media or something out there in the digital space, I feel like I'm not doing my job, because then I don't know the whole landscape. I don't know what the messaging is. I don't know what the where we're showing up and where we're not, because all of those different avenues come into the mix especially when you're thinking about local and the way that people are going to be searching and all of those types of things that add into SEO. So I mean, I think it's a wide range, and I think that's an unnecessary evil is to be in all of those conversations.
Yeah, I think what Joe's saying makes a lot of sense. It's certainly who we're working with is certainly dependent on the client and what the client values from their local stores or locations. Some organizations, the branding that they get from the store location, so local SEO may fall under brand. In other industries or other areas, it might fall under the franchise ownership group, or it might fall under the SEO team or the marketing team in general, or it might even fall under the social team. So it certainly depends on the client, but being able to align with that group and provide more efficiency, as well as an operational process that delivers consistent information that helps engage with the client. I think those are all areas that are important in working with your groups.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that's one of the hardest topics that we've dealt with. Working with Rich, on your side is, what does that operational step look like, right? You already have the client, or working on, bringing on a new client. So from a tech partner perspective, because there's a lot of us in the space, right? There's no bells and whistles, there's no, secret sauce. It's really, can they really provide that level of service that you guys are giving back to the customer? Being on both sides. So from a tech partner perspective, what are like the kind of key pieces that you guys really look for? Is it scalability? Is it service level? Is it, integrations? What is that you guys really think about?
Yeah, so I'll go first here, Joe. In working with a partner from that operational perspective, we're certainly always dependent on the client and what the client's looking for and how they're structured as well. And I think that's dependent in terms of the level of service that you'll need from the software company or from a company like Rio. I think the idea there is what's their bandwidth, what resources do they have on their side, and then what type of data and integrations are they looking for, and the certain types of platforms that they have available. And then I think from there, in downloading those requirements and spending the time understanding, the different aspects in terms of their content management system, how do they engage with their customers from a social media reviews perspective? How do they launch new locations or new local pages? Gaining that understanding will help us determine the level of engagement that we'll need from the software end.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I would add that I think as an agency we have the power and the bandwidth to do a lot of things on the back end, but I think it's the scaling of that a partner can give to you. When you get into clients that have 7, 8, 9,000 locations, just having someone that you can call and have as a partner to say like, hey, I'm seeing this happening. Can we look into this? Having someone that's kind of that service arm that maybe like because we're an agency and we're doing so many different things for that client, it's not necessarily possible for us to always be able to do all of the things that we're doing within the agency. And then also on top of that, something happens within the local algorithm or something like that, and we're seeing losses. Having someone to then call and say like, hey, can you look into this? Why is this happening? Can you give me some background information? Are you seeing this across the board with other clients in the same vertical? Things like that. It's something that is kind of invaluable to us, and I think that service side of it is something that I always look for in a partner.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's great because I think it has to be a collaborative effort across the board. Definitely with what we see, because we stay in our lane, right? I think that's the biggest thing here is you guys work across multiple different facets of the business, different types of clients. We stay in the local, right? And it's around data cleansing, data management, making sure it's easy for the consumer as well as the client itself. And there's a lot of internal struggles within there. So brings me back to a topic of franchisees. So what has been your experience? Because I can share this, as far as our experience is working with a brand that has franchisees, webinars, training, all of that really comes into onboarding the client. What have you guys seen from a success, or as any other agency or any other partner that you're working with or your client? How easy is it, or what is the best approach to really bring on a franchisee type network? Because I know there could be branded changes, thinking of the hospitality space, they could move from, one brand to the next based on their level. All of that comes into play. What have you guys seen within there as well?
Yeah, I think usually the scheme that works out best at structural wise is having kind of like ambassadorships across the organization that can then collect information and kind of centralize it for you, because I think that's when you have a ton of different franchisees, there are a lot of different people trying to ask for different things, having a bunch of different questions, and trying to centralize that information and kind of prioritize them based upon need and business priority is really something that we always kind of advocate for, and I think it just makes everything work a lot smoother.
Yeah. So yeah, working with franchises is is certainly challenging because each franchisee owns their own business or has a group of certain locations, so they're very used to doing things on their own or by themselves as a business owner. So a lot of times they want to own, their local listing, or they just don't know that it's possible to manage all the brand listings at once from an enterprise perspective. So having that communication alignment internally with anybody who has the relationships with franchisees and constantly has their ear um, allows you to get your story out in front of them as a whole, as a group. And then what I would want to present to them is areas where you're going to add value and efficiency. So, managing a local listing is probably, it's very painful when things are going wrong, but when things are right, it's probably the lowest priority on a business owner's list. Like, they never want to go into Google. They don't have time to respond to reviews. They don't have time to make local page updates. They don't have time to keep the data accurate or even understand what that entire ecosystem looks like. As a business owner or somebody who comes from a family that owns a local business, I could assure you that my family would never, I don't think they've ever looked at their Google My Business profile, but I'm constantly just updating it for them. So just adding that value in terms of data accuracy, adding value in terms of SEO benefit and how that's going to resonate with their customers and how their customers will benefit from them having a good local listing. I think it's important to tell that story.
Great. Yeah, I think that's good too, because I come from the same thing. My dad owned a irrigation service, right? He knows nothing. He barely even knows how to check his email. But when you think of that from a scale at, thousands, if not hundreds of locations, it definitely gets very tricky. And when, everybody thinks they know something or they just don't want to deal with it. So I think from approach that we've seen is really good is, corporate, really puts out like, hey, we're doing this in your best interest. The agency is here to help you. The technology stack is here to, push that out. And we're going to deliver some nice reporting so that you can actually see the benefit and strategic approach. I think that's the biggest thing with there. When it comes to data, because we can talk about, updating listings all day long as well as reporting, but I think data is, that's the start endpoint, right? At the end of the day. Just to, what data challenges have you seen? I know I can share some examples as far as, hey, we have a database over here and there's another team that manages it. What have you guys seen as far as, collaborating within those internal teams to get them to, work together to really pull it into a, kind of source of truth type of approach?
Yeah, I think internal data arguments or strategies is I'm even stumbling over myself thinking about it, but I think it's just a frustrating task to take on is who's going to be the source of truth for data? Where does that come from? When a change is made, if the source of truth lives within another department, when a change is made there, how does that trickle down to the local listings? And so either using the local listing platform as the source of truth is certainly a strategy, but if the data is going to live somewhere else, having integrations so that those updates happen automatically, or more importantly, if that's not available, having the resources in place to consistently download that data and then efficiently upload that data to your local listing platform so that everything's accurate all the time.
Yeah, I honestly, I mirror a lot of that. Some of the experience that I've had is that the partner like you guys, Rio, having the the partner be the source of truth has been very helpful. A lot of times when you're working with large enterprise size businesses, all of those databases are rather fragmented. If you can just kind of get them all to pass that information through to one centralized location, and then have a partner that can then be that source of truth. I think that's a great way to leverage that kind of relationship and just show the power of centralizing that data. And then maybe that will change the organization's mind to say like, okay, well, maybe in the future we need to figure out how to centralize this data internally, but at the onset, it's a lot easier to try to to leverage a partner to have that source of data.
Okay. Perfect. So now that we have the data cleaned up, next thing is from your guys' perspective as far as what's next, right? So yes, name, address, phone number is great, but what is in saturated markets? What have you guys seen as far as the top level things to think about when you're trying to compete in the local map, right? So Google just came out with that update. Relevant score is coming in. Voice search, everybody's talking about it. All of those different, as well as reviews coming in there, Google Q&A, Google Posts. What do you guys see as, any kind of tips or tricks, or even, some of the most underutilized Google My Business features that brands aren't thinking about today?
Yeah, I think that Q&A section is something that is underutilized. It's really it falls onto the category of brand management and brand reputation, right? If you're allowing others to answer, if people are posting questions and you're allowing other people to answer those questions, you're just lending yourself to people giving bad reviews within those answers, within they're giving false information or inaccurate information. I think it's a really simple place to really own your own presence and mine your own data, figure out what questions people are asking on a routine basis, and try to get people to enter those types of questions and answer them, and you be the source of truth. You be the top 3 answers that come up for the questions that show up there. Because a lot of times, I'll tell you, you talk to people that don't really even know anything about this space. They say, well, I didn't go there because it looks like somebody asked a really relevant question like 3 months ago, and nobody's given a valid answer. It's kind of an untapped opportunity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that falls under just customer engagement altogether, whether that's reviews or Q&A, and having a timely response is certainly extremely important. Customers like to have fast responses, and that's whether that's even when they're searching to find the the best location or the best topic within their search. I think in terms of where we're going overall in search is not only going from digital to voice, but just where does the overall search platform live? We're certainly getting a lot of advances there. People are, and I think a lot of this falls under voice, but people are searching within Maps applications, within Waze for a local business near them, rather than going to Google to find the local pizza shop or the Best Buy near them. With Christmas holiday shopping coming up, those types of searches that are happening on different platforms is growing exponentially, and people aren't just relying just on the Google search engine. And you have things like Google Assistant coming out and just automating things for people as well, just being integrated from all different areas. I think being holistic, the most overused term in search probably in 2019, and covering all areas and being local to the point where the distribution of your content is being picked up by many different resources outside of just Google itself.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think too, we've talked a lot about data enrichment, local listings, but it also comes down to content, right? So organic SEO plays nicely within the local search spectrum. So how have you guys kind of dealt with that? I know there's a lot of providers out in the space, or just you guys as agency partners in general. You guys can build out pages. A lot of times it's for targeted paid ad campaigns. You're doing paid ad placements and going to a targeted landing page. When you think about it at the local level, what would be something that you guys look for? Is it breadth of, I want a page for every location? Can we segment down to specific in-store departments or services at that? And then thinking about the schema as well as the SEO impact for FAQs, or how is that bubbling back into putting reviews, first-party reviews on the pages, right? Which I think Google did an update as far as, first-party reviews on pages not showing up as relevant anymore, but it's still important from a conversational take on that. What do you guys think about that as far as, would you build that internally? Do you look for a partner like a Rio that can build that, has that expertise, and gives you the flexibility? And I think that's the biggest thing that brands struggle with is a lot of it is IT loves to hold it as well as marketing, and I totally get that. But how do we, from a marketing perspective, really do real-time updates? Is it localized text? Is it localized campaigns on an organic perspective, even though Google is the quote-unquote new homepage of search, right? How do you guys feel about that?
So in terms of content and yes, sorry, Joe, I thought that was great there. In terms of content and scaling content, I think in local search, you want to be an advocate in two areas. One, the business and vertical that your business serves, and the locale. Anything as soon as you start stretching your content farther out, even if you try to move content that's further up the funnel, I think Google's just getting very good at understanding relevancy, which has been brought up. But I think as you scale out content that's way too far against your locale or the vertical, you're going to have trouble ranking in there because there's going to be somebody who's just more relevant within that locale or that other business that you're trying to kind of overlap there. And then once you're building out this content, whether it's at the store level or at the service level within the store, being able to have that content crawled and indexed and integrated with Google using technical features such as schema markup to answer any questions that would service not only the Q&A within the Google SERP, which is very much position 0, but also to be able to have that aggregated into any voice search as well, and to provide those answers is you'll certainly get a lift from a branding perspective and a customer engagement perspective as well.
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, it really. I mean, the other thing that SEO say a lot is it depends. But it really does in this case. I mean, it depends on the type of business as to what your strategy should be. Like you mentioned, do you want to, should you create pages that are more granular? Are people looking not just for that location, but looking for something within that location? Or are they searching much more broadly? Like here in New York, people are not searching for, the street name. They're searching for the neighborhood that something is in, or they know that they're in Tribeca, or they know that they're, that they're in Nomad. And that they're looking for something within that area. If you're not speaking in the way that they're speaking, especially to a voice device, voice assistant, I mean, you're not going to be in the running to answer that question. So it's really more about mining the information that you can gain. You can do that by scraping the SERPs to look at what the title tags are of the things that show up for those types of location-based searches, and then are they informational based? Are they looking for a local business? And that should be what informs how you're creating the content for each one of those pieces. And honestly, with the algorithm getting so smart to understand all of the different intents that somebody may have, you could possibly even have two different pages that serve two different intents. You could have a page that explains all of the things to do. If you're a hotel, you could have a location like things to do in this area near this hotel, right? If you're
Right.
seeing that there's intent there, but then you could also have another intent that's the person that's actually just searching just wants to actually get to you, right? There are two different pieces there. They're both kind of, in like old school SEO, they would both kind of seem like they're targeting the same keyword, but they're really not. There are two totally different intents there.
Right.
And you can really, you can win by looking at that type of data that you're being provided.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
So,
Tyler, I think you wanted to touch upon how that's built out as well, which I
yep.
think I might have missed up on there. What I've learned probably over the past 13 years is how difficult it is in the enterprise org to launch and create web pages in some instances where it's easy for IT to do. It's not a big lift, but maybe a little bit at scale. But what ends up happening is the business as a whole is priority. So you'll have your shopping cart, or new products that are being launched, or the holiday shopping season coming up. So getting your local content pages under or on top of a business case that involves direct sales happening in real time is always a challenge. I found there's certain different, depending on the organization, there's different ways that could work, and that one could be getting your own development team or agency to come in and build the pages that need to be built, which IT is never for.
Don't
Or
touch it.
yeah, or there's you'll have to get very closely aligned with IT and just have them consistently carve out a search scope within every sprint, so that whatever you need worked on is being worked on or built every couple weeks or however often you're doing your sprints. But then I think the other option is outsourcing it to another CMS that, and I think Rio does offer the Pages platform, and there's a couple other companies as well. But the idea there is that you'll have direct access to a platform that will allow you to make content changes and updates pretty quickly once you're launched with IT, and then you and your team or the franchisees themselves can have access to that in order to make changes to their pages for their local listings as well. It's super efficient, and it's worth at least putting your eyes on to make a case for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you for bringing that up, Rich. Yeah, I think it's just, what path do I take? Keep it in house, take it, or do we move to this parallel path that allows IT to do all the shopping cart, because that is real money, right? Whereas this is future money and bringing in consumers' eyeballs and all that conversion with there, and they work together right at the end. So I think the biggest thing is really making sure that analytics talk together, paid marketing campaigns talk together, agency as well as the brand talk together with the the stack or the launch of it as well, and then making sure that the tech partner is nimble enough, because there's a lot of rebranding. People move from one platform to a next. I've seen a lot of shift to Salesforce versus Demandware, wherever that housing may be, and it's really just can that fit the mold without IT having to I wait 6 months. Okay, well, how much is that revenue lost, right? And that's it. So we're coming up on time here, but just wanted to, I think, as a last question for both of you, with Rich, what do you think is the lowest hanging fruit from a local marketing optimization standpoint? We've kind of walked through a lot of that. Known you for quite some time now. I think you have some good points there, but then what are people dropping the ball on? What's your forecast for 2020, I guess?
I'm not sure where voice search is going. I think it's kind of in a place where it's growing exponentially, but I don't know if Google knows how to really monetize that. So where is that going in the future? I think it's very important from a customer engagement perspective, but I think a lot of companies or enterprises are so focused on getting engagement through their digital platforms, their websites, their apps. And they're not paying so much attention to voice, in which we, and then once we do start paying attention to it and we're getting that engagement with customers, how do we move them down the pipeline? I think those are areas that we need to spend more focus on, because there's just going to be more and more voice search. I don't think, I watch my 12-year-old daughter use her iPhone, and she doesn't type the keyboards anymore. She's just constantly talking into it. And I think that's what the future of digital engagement.
And then for Joe, just same question goes to you. I even think about now Amazon's coming out with Alexa powered glasses and all that stuff within there. It's like kind of like Google Glass back in the day, which was funky if you've ever tried one. But now it's becoming more streamlined. So what is your kind of take on that from an agency partner perspective?
Yeah, I think all of the technological advances that we're seeing within natural language processing and the inclusion in all of these types of like wearables and the fact that you do have access to that assistant pretty much everywhere you are. I think the next evolution has to be visual. It has to be some sort of augmented reality overlay that happens, like with these glasses. If you're trying to find a location, right, it should be able to, give you kind of like a heads up display that you have like in your car that kind of directs you to where you're going instead of having to look down at your phone the entire time that you're walking. And I think the types of things that we do are just going to be amplified and be put under a microscope when those types of things happen. Because if you're leading somebody somewhere and your location information is not correct, or the pin location that you have is not accurate, then you're going to have all sorts of issues when it comes to that next evolution of technology. So I think that has to be the next step. We always kind of start out in an audio text-based area, and then it always moves into a more visual medium. So I think it just makes sense that's the direction that we're going with this type of information.
Yeah, I tried that on Google, gave me access to like the Google View or whatever, which was like the AI or virtual reality on top of it, or augmented reality on top of it. And I was in New York, and I probably almost got, even though it was probably my fault, I got driven over probably like 4 or 5 times. But yeah. You New Yorkers, us people in San Diego, it's just like, oh, it's free, clear. So, but yeah, I think that's next evolution. I really appreciate both of you taking time out of your day to talk about this, especially with other agencies, other brands that are trying to figure out what is that scope, what does it look like, what is the starting ground, how do we move forward? Because it's always a crawl, walk, run approach, and I think we've discovered that with both of you is it's and there's companies, it's not a one size fits all. And I think that's the biggest point here is you're going to have multiple different providers for paid, for social, for local. Nobody does it all, right? And we get that. But I think the agency is really that conduit between the brand as well as the experience of the consumer. And I, once again, appreciate both of you taking that time. So if any of you guys want to, Joe, if you want to, where they can contact you, we have your obviously picture up there, your Twitter handle, any other information you want to give. Same thing with Rich. Definitely feel free to do that as well before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think Twitter is the easiest place probably to reach me. I'm on there pretty often. But yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any other questions. Always send me a message there.
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on my Twitter handle, or if you're associated with Pat Fallon, you can reach out to Pat and connect with me as well.
I will give everybody Rich's home phone number and home address. And then, just thank you, everybody. And then we'll send out, just so everybody knows on the line, send out the recording within 24 hours. And then also you have the Rio _SEO Twitter handle to have any comments as well. And then hopefully everybody is getting ready to be stuffed for Turkey, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas and Hanukkah as we get there. So any questions, feel free to follow up. But definitely thank everybody for joining the call.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.